where today we are going to be doing another mock draft. But for this mock draft, it's going to be a little different. So, with the new college football game that came out, at the end of every season, you see which players get drafted, and they tell you which round they get drafted in. And so I simulated a season and then took the 32 players that the game said is going to get drafted in the first round, and pretty much those are the players I'm allowed to pick from. So there's a lot of variance in players that are going to get picked. A lot of players who people don't think are going to get picked in the first round. They projected to go in the first just based off the season they had in the game. So this is going to be just a little bit of a twist. It's not going to make much sense, but you can't just keep doing mock drafts because not much is going to change. So this is a way for me to mix it up. But without further ado, let's get into the EA College Football 25 first round mock draft. So the first pick is the Titans. Now the basic top guys, like the common guys at the top, are going to be available in this first round mock draft. And I think there was the report that the Titans aren't going to pass on a generational talent. Now they could just be saying that because you can't really trust what GMs and coaches and owners say leading up to the draft. But based on that, I'm going to have the Titans go with either Travis Hunter or Abdul Carter in the generational talent. Now, maybe not talent-wise, but the fact that he can play both positions, I'm going Travis Hunter first overall to the Tennessee Titans. Now, the second pick, I think the Browns go with the next best player here, and that's Abdul Carter. It's either they go with him or Travis Hunter, depending on who's available. And I think they go Abdul Carter at 2, pair him alongside Myles Garrett to create one of the better edge rushing duos. I think they stick with either Deshaun, even though he's not going to play this season. But I think they go with the veteran quarterback route here. Giants at 3, I think they're the first team to take a quarterback. I would have them take Cam Ward. However, Cam Ward did not get projected to go in the first round based on the simulation, so I will not be able to take Cam Ward here in this mock draft. So instead, I'll go with the next best quarterback, being Shedeur Sanders, have him go 3 to the Giants. Patriots at 4, a common pick for me at least, is to have them get a guy like Teteroya McMillan, get Drake May, that weapon that he does not have currently at the receiver position. And McMillan is available, so I will have the Patriots go with McMillan, give him that big body target that can also make a lot of plays after the catch as well. Jags at 5, another common pick here. Go Mason Graham. I think you can make an argument for a guy like maybe Will Johnson here at 5 as well. But I think you get Mason Graham to pair him alongside Walker and Josh Hines Allen to create one of the better young D-lines in football. Now, the Raiders at 6. Now, while Cam Ward was not a first-round projection based on the simulation, there were other quarterbacks who made the first round, and one of them being Alabama's Jalen Milroe, who I'm going to have going to the Raiders at 6. They need a QB. They're projected to, be in the running for a Shedeur, maybe even a Cam Ward. But Shedeur's off the board, Cam Ward's not available, and Jalen Milroe has to go in the first round, and the Raiders need a quarterback. So I'm going to have them go with Alabama's Jalen Milroe. And another surprise quarterback pick here. Again, Cam Ward did not make it, but Dylan Gabriel did get put as a first-round pick based on the simulation. The Jets could look to go QB here in this draft. I think they go, if they draft a QB, I think they go in the second round where a guy like Dylan Gabriel could actually make sense for them. But he was projected in the first round. I don't see any other team outside of maybe the Steelers, maybe even the Rams, but I doubt it, going after a QB. So if he has to go somewhere, I think it makes perfect sense for him to go to the Jets in this scenario. Panthers at 8. They have to go best defensive player available, especially if McMillan's off the board. I think the clear best defensive player left is Will Johnson. You pair him alongside J.C. Horn to create a very good young duo in the secondary. They need help everywhere on defense, and I think the best case scenario is getting best defensive player available, Will Johnson being that in this case. Saints at 9, they need a lot of help on the O-line. Who knows what's happening with Ryan Ramczyk. Trevor Penning has not worked out, and Will Campbell is sitting right here at 9. Probably the best tackle. I don't even know if he's going to play tackle or interior, but they could use O-line in general. So you get a franchise lineman there at 9. Now the Bears at 10. Another team that could go tackle here, but the tackles, especially Kelvin Banks, who's a popular pick early in the first round at the tackle position, he did not get projected as a first round. Now, some of these aren't necessarily that they didn't play well enough in the simulation to get projected in the first round. It's that they didn't declare for the draft. They took another year in college in this scenario. But without Kelvin Banks on the board, with Ben Johnson being the new head coach for the Bears, with him having that 2 running back offense that he had in Detroit, I'm going to have the Bears go Ashton Jeanty here at 10, pair him alongside DeAndre Swift, and try and bring that two-headed duo halfback sort of offense to Chicago like he had in Detroit. Niners at 11, a team that could go O-line here, could go either of the O-line positions because, who knows, Trent Williams is getting up there in age. But again, I don't know if the tackles are necessarily worth taking here at 11. The best tackle is either Wyatt Millum or Ariante Ursary, because Simons also is not a first-round guy in this. But I think another position they could use help with is the edge room. Outside of Nick Bosa, they don't have much. So I'm going to have them go James Pierce out of Tennessee. It was either him or Michael Williams at this pick, but I decided to go James Pierce. Cowboys at 12, they lose out on Ashton Jeanty. A popular pick for me is the Cowboys taking Jeanty, but with him off the board, there are still some running backs. There's actually a decent amount of running backs. Marion Hampton out of North Carolina is available. Quinshawn Judkins. Those are the other 2 halfbacks available, is Quinshawn and Hampton. The Cowboys desperately need a halfback, and I'm going to have them go with Hampton here at pick 12 to Dallas. Dolphins at 13, I think a pick like Malachi Starks here is perfect for them. They could go O-line, but I think they should go defense, especially if some of the top tackles aren't available. Malachi Starks is probably the best defensive player left on the board, best safety in the class. I think it's an easy pick for Miami at 13. Colts at 14, another position that had a little bit of that had maybe more than we would have thought in the first round is tight end. Not only is Tyler Warren a first-round tight end, but also Harold Fannin Jr. is another tight end that needs to go in this mock draft. I really like the fit of Tyler Warren to the Colts. I like Tyler Warren just in general, and I think the Colts are going to prioritize building around Anthony Richardson, because although he might have to compete for his job, I still think they believe in him, and I still think they're going to try and put him in the best scenario to succeed, or their next quarterback to succeed. They already have their running back. They have a good receiver room. Their O-line is still good, but they're missing that tight end, and I think Tyler Warren can complete that offense of young promising players. Falcons at 15, they desperately need edge rush or just pass rush in general, and there is one clear top-tier edge rusher still available, and that is Michael Williams out of Georgia. I think this is an easy pick. There's a lot of good edge rushers around the pick for the Falcons, so I think it'd be a huge surprise if they don't go edge. I think everyone thought they were going to go edge rusher last year, and then they took Penix. But I think it's even more obvious that they go edge this year. Cardinals at 16, another team who could maybe use edge help, but they also could use help on the O-line, and I think they go tackle here. I think they go West Virginia's Wyatt Millum, because Josh Simons isn't available. Kelvin Banks didn't get a first-round grade. Neither did Josh Connerly, but Wyatt Milliam did. He is the second. He's probably the best tackle. The only two tackles left, as I said, are Millam and Ursery. I think Millam is slightly better than Ursery, so I'm going to have the Cardinals pair him alongside Paris Johnson on that O-line, who they took. Last year or 2 years ago. Cincy at 17, a team that desperately needs defense. Any position on defense, to be honest. There's no really good interior D lineman left outside of maybe like a Walter Nolan out of Ole Miss is available, or a Deion Walker out of Kentucky. But there are still some good corners, and I think they lean towards the better of the defenders left, which is probably Benjamin Morrison out of Notre Dame. I think he is the best defensive player left on the board for the Bengals, and they just need defense. Seattle at 18, another team that could use help on the O-line. They probably should prioritize more interior O-line. And there's two guards in this first round that are possible, Tyler Booker and Tate Ratledge. I think Tyler Booker is the clear better of the two, and Seattle needs some help on that interior O-line. So I'm going to have them go Tyler Booker at 18. Buccaneers at 19, a team that desperately needs secondary help. Their secondary was getting beat a lot this year. And Siobhan Revel did get a first-round projection from the simulation. And he's the last corner available, so I think it makes perfect sense for him to go to the Bucs in this case. Broncos at 20. I'm going to have him go Luther Burden here. He's kind of fallen a little bit on this board, but they need somebody alongside Cortland Sutton. I know they have Mims and Troy Franklin, the sort of deep threat guys, but they just need a good quality receiver alongside Cortland Sutton. And I think Luther Burden at 20 is a steal, and I think that's a good pick for them. And we're actually going to have another receiver go here because Pittsburgh could use receivers. They do have George Pickens. Who knows if they're going to move him or not? I don't know if he's going to get traded, but they need receivers, whether they're quarterbacks Russell Wilson, Justin Fields, or someone else. They need a receiver, and Emeka Egbuka is the last receiver available to take, and I'm going to have him go to the Steelers. Chargers at 22. This is an interesting one. They need another team that needs receivers, but you could go a receiver here, but in real life, but there was no other receivers available from the first round based on the simulation. So honestly, I think you go halfback or tight end here, because there's also no edges left outside of Jack Sawyer, and Harold Fannin has to get taken here at tight end. So I'm gonna have the Chargers go with Harold Fannin out of Bowling Green. They need somebody at the tight end position, and he's the only outside of Quinshawn Judkins, he's the only skill player left to be taken, and I think it's a good pick for the Chargers to just get someone on offense, and in this case, being Harold Fannin. Packers at 23. They could use another team that could go receiver here, but I don't think they need another young receiver. They have enough of those. Could go corner, but there is no corners left. You could go with a Jack Sawyer, but 31 seems a bit high for a Jack Sawyer. I think they beef up that interior O-line, and they take the last interior O-lineman available based on the simulation, and that's Tate Ratledge out of Georgia. Vikings at 24. Their defense was very good this year, so you don't probably need to worry about defense. Your O-line was a bit shaky, but it was also banged up as well. And outside of Aaron Jones, Cam Akers showed them a little bit at that running back position, but Aaron Jones is on the older side. You could want to give him some reps off during the season. There's one running back left in the first round, and I'm going to have the Vikings go with Quinshawn Judkins out of Ohio State. Kind of like the Chargers, he's now the last skill position player available to be picked, and the Vikings could use a running back alongside Aaron Jones. Texans at 25. They could go O-line here because C.J. Stroud was getting pressured a ton. So they could go the last tackle available, which is Ariante Ursery out of Minnesota. And I think, you have to go line here if you're the Texans. So I think they go Ariante Ursery out of Minnesota. The Rams at 26. They could use some linebacker help because their D-line is great with Fisk and Verse and Byron Young. But their linebackers, like off-ball linebackers, could use some improvement. And there are 2 off-ball linebackers available in this, and that's Barrett Carter out of Clemson and Jay Higgins out of Iowa. And I think Barrett Carter is the slightly better pick here, so I'm going to have the Rams go with Barrett Carter out of Clemson. Ravens at 27. They could use some help in the secondary. I know their secondary has improved. Again, another team that could go receiver, but there are none left to take here. They could use help on their secondary. You already have Kyle Hamilton out of Notre Dame, so why not add his fellow alumni? I'm going to have the Ravens go Xavier Watts, safety out of Notre Dame, to pair alongside fellow Notre Dame safety Kyle Hamilton. The Lions at 28, they could use some D-line help. I know they have Aiden Hutchinson, Aleem McNeil. They could go edge with Jack Sawyer, who's the last edge available. The last guys available are Walter Nolan, D lineman from Ole Miss, Malachi Moore, Alabama safety, Jay Higgins, linebacker from Iowa, Jack Sawyer, the edge from Ohio State, and Deion Walker, the D lineman from Kentucky. Those are the last guys available. And I think the Lions are a little on the outside of Aleem McNeil. They do have DJ Reader, I'm pretty sure, who's a little older. So I'm going to have them go with Ole Miss's Walter Nolan. They just kind of need depth at that position. I know it's probably not going to happen again where like 10 of those players get injured, but you never know. So I think it's always good to have depth at that D-line. Commanders at 29. I think they could use some help in the secondary. There's no corners they could take. So I think they go with Alabama's safety Malachi Moore here at 29. Help them out in the secondary. Bills at 30. They could probably, again, outside of a lot of these teams need receiver. Outside of receiver, you could go corner, but there are none left. It's pretty much Jay Higgins or Deion Walker. And I think linebacker, especially with how Ed Oliver played in this season and in the postseason, I think linebacker is a slightly more need for the Bills. So I'm going to have them go with Jay Higgins out of Iowa. Eagles at 31. It's between Jack Sawyer and Deion Walker. They need edge a little bit more probably than they need interior D-line. So I'm going to have them go with Jack Sawyer out of Ohio State. And that leaves the Chiefs, who, could use some D-line with Chris Jones being on the older side and not having much outside of him. That leaves them to take Deion Walker out of Kentucky. Zoom this out real quick. And so this is our EA Sports College Football 25 mock draft based on the 32 players that they had go in the first round. I know it's not accurate, it's not correct, but it wasn't supposed to be. It was supposed to be a fun iteration of a mock draft based on the new college football game. And let me know some of your opinions. Obviously, this is not going to be accurate to real life, but let me know your thoughts. Who should I have picked based on who was available? And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.